Hello, everyone. Now, okay, let's start the agenda this afternoon. Before I start the agenda, I would like to read some wrap up. Before we start with the item 19, I would like to inform the committee that I agree that the following parties could be included in the membership of the relevant working group. France, included in the drafting group of the tortoise and turtle of Madagascar. Armenia, included in the working group of review significant trade. Republic of Korea, Switzerland, Senegal, as well as Japan, and US, included in the working group of shark and race. Please note that the following two in-session document and executive summary has been published, and we will consider this document tomorrow morning. In-session document SE 34.1 on shark and race and SE 34.2 on tortoise and turtle of Madagascar, and the executive summary. Taking into consideration the number of documents to be discussed, I will appreciate it if you keep your intervention again concise. I will limit the number of the intervention and time allowed for the intervention as needed. Please focus the intervention on the recommendations and, where relevant, the proposed mandate of the intersessional working group. So please be concise and focus on the mandate of the intersessional working group. Agenda item 19, material for identification of specimens. Document SE 34, Doc 19, provide the Animal Committee with the information relating to the implementations of the decision on the material for the identification of the specimen of CITES listed species, or ID material in short. This includes response to a notification to the parties published by the Secretariat as required in the decision on this topic. Decision 20.121 direct to Animal Committee to establish a working group and set out the mandate. This mandate is included in the paragraph 8 and refers to the ID materials to be developed in the term of the decision on the amphibians to avoid duplication of work. First, I will give the members to the representatives of Oceania.
Thank you, Chair. Oceania thanks the Secretariat for the preparation of the present document and the parties that responded to the notification, inviting parties and observer organisations to provide input on the identification materials for specimens of CITES listed species through a questionnaire. We recognise the importance of this work to support effective implementation of the Convention and therefore support the recommendation to establish an intersessional working group on identification materials and acknowledge the benefits that improved identification resources can be to when provided to parties. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Shania. Now I will European represent, please.
Thank you, Chair. In line with what has just been said by the representative of Oceania, we also support the establishment of an intersessional working group. And with regards to the initiative led by China that was flagged in the report, we would like to acknowledge the impressive progress that has been already achieved. And I also had the opportunity to work with colleagues involved in this effort and recognize that much of the work has relied on voluntary contribution and considerable commitments from experts. And given the resources required for further development, China could be invited to present the current prototype to the working group in a dedicated session. So that's just a suggestion to request feedback and to also guide future investments of time and resources on this matter. And we would also like to highlight the recurring challenge identified in the document regarding the availability of identification materials for newly listed species. And there appears to be a systematic gap between the adoption of new listings and the availability of practical tools needed for implementation and enforcement. And looking ahead, we would like to encourage proponents, where feasible, to consider identification challenges during the preparation of listing proposals already, and to provide available identification guidance or references or supporting materials as appropriate. Many recent proposals already included useful information of that kind, and such an approach could really help to facilitate implementation and reduce delays following listings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, European. Next, I give the floor to the members first. To the observer parties. Observer organization. Sorry, China.
Thank you, sir. Chair. We fully recognize that identification material are fundamental to the effective implementation of CITES. I want to thank the Secretariat for preparation of this document. We support the recommendation in Doc 19 to establish an intersection working group. On behalf of China, I wish to take this opportunity to express our sincere gratitude to the Animal Committee for its strong recognition and the invaluable support for China's initiative on the identification manual of animals listed in CITES Appendix 1. Over the past 2 years, China has been committed to experience how innovative technology, including AI, can support the development of species identification material. Together, in the true spirit of CITES, we have all development of CITES AI ID Navigator. Looking ahead, China will continue to actively seek appropriate approaches and pathways to advance the development and updating of identification manual animal listed in CITES Appendix 1. We stand ready to work hand in hand with all parties, the Secretariat, and the international partners to provide solid scientific support for global CITES implementation. Thank you again, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, China. Contribution. Then I will move to, is there any other parties that will take floor? Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia would like to inform that we have developed a comprehensive set of identification guides covering herpetofauna, plants, mammals, birds, corals, sea cucumbers, seahorses, sharks, and rays to support effective species identification and CITES implementation. And we support with the intersessional working group if there will be access. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. Then I give to European Pet Organization.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me the floor. I'm also speaking on behalf of several other organisations whose names I'll provide to the Secretariat. We welcome the recommendations contained in this document, and in particular, the proposal to establish an intersessional working group on identification materials for CITES-listed taxa. As organisations representing legitimate trade in a wide range of CITES-listed taxa, we stand ready to contribute our expertise to this work. We particularly welcome the emphasis on collaboration. Experience has shown that practical identification materials are most effective when developed through cooperation between governments, scientific experts, enforcement authorities, and legitimate trade. One example is the development of the comprehensive coral identification guide referred to in the response submitted by the United Kingdom. This demonstrates how such partnerships can produce practical tools that directly support frontline enforcement and thereby improving the effectiveness of CITES implementation and enforcement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, European Pet Organizations. I think there is no objections of the move forward with this matter. Then we can go to the conclusions. The committee agreed to establish the intersectional working group on identification material, and that will work through the electronic means to undertake the tasks as set in the paragraph 8 of the document. And of course, in the consultation with the Secretariat. So I would like to invite the members from the representative Oceania to lead the intersessional working group, and represent Asia. And is there any others members that will join? European. Okay, to parties, please indicate that you will join to the parties first. Sorry, nomenclators include. Okay, I will read the parties that will join to the international working group. Zimbabwe, Canada, Mexico, Tanzania, Zambia, Russian Federation, Brazil, United Kingdom, Germany, Lithuania, Laos PDR, Gambia, United States of America, Indonesia, Qatar, China, and Uganda. Now I invite observer organization. EASA, UNODC, CMS, WCS, Parrot Breeding South Africa, European Pet Organization, FAO, UNEP WCMC, IUCN, OFI, Animal Interests, Traffic, U.S. reptile keeper. I think Oman is included as the parties. European Pet Organization, I think we already included. Please put the bottom. Yeah, we also noticed that comment by Europe. Yeah, we know that one. And yeah, and I will give the floor to the Oceania.
Thank you, Chair. Acknowledging the comments by the member for Europe and other parties, I do note the potentially broad scope of this work before the intersessional working group. With this in mind, and if warranted, may I suggest a small informal discussion with interested parties to help refine the scope and priorities of the work. This may assist an intersessional working group ensure activities are targeted, achievable and aligned with available resources and parties' needs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Oceania. We know that's your concern with the establishment of the international working group that will be concluded. This agenda is closed. Of course, we know that your concern regarding that one. Now we move to the agenda item 9. Role of the CITES in reducing risk of the future zoonotic disease emerge associated with the international wildlife trade. I would like to start the agenda item 9.2, which concern the report of the Secretariat on the implementations of the decision 12.10 to 12.13 on the role of the CITES in reducing zoonotic disease risk associated with the international wildlife trade. This report can be found in the AC 34 compendium. The committee is invited to take note of the Secretariat's progress. I will now open the agenda item 9.1 and turn to Mexico to introduce the document. Mexico, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. México tiene el honor de presentar el documento 9.1 preparado con el copatrocinio de Senegal relativo al papel de las CITES en la reducción del riesgo de aparición de futuras enfermedades zoonóticas asociadas al comercio internacional de especies silvestres. El documento busca contribuir a la implementación de las decisiones 20.10 a 20.13 adoptadas por la Conferencia de las Partes. En particular, busca avanzar en la decisión 20.11b, que encomienda al Comité de Fauna continuar trabajando con IATA y otras organizaciones pertinentes sobre estándares y protocolos para el transporte de animales vivos y muestras biológicas y veterinarias con miras a reducir el riesgo de enfermedades zoonóticas y de propagación de patógenos asociados al comercio de vida silvestre. El estrés asociado a la transportación internacional de animales silvestres vivos incrementa el riesgo de la aparición de patógenos y la proximidad cercana a otras especies y a las personas durante el transporte también puede incrementar la probabilidad de transmisión y de contagio entre especies, creando riesgos evitables e innecesarios. Por tanto, para México resulta fundamental revisar las disposiciones de las CITES sobre el transporte de especímenes vivos, de modo que estén actualizadas, garantizando que tienen en cuenta dichos riesgos y que contribuyen así a mitigar la aparición de patógenos zoonóticos, lo cual es parte de nuestro mandato. Señor presidente, deseamos subrayar que esta propuesta no busca ampliar el mandato de las CITES ni duplicar el trabajo de organizaciones con mandatos especializados en materia de salud humana, sanidad animal o el enfoque Una Salud. Reconocemos plenamente el papel de la cuadripartita y de las organizaciones pertinentes en estos ámbitos. En ese sentido, consideramos que el valor agregado de CITES es más específico y es puramente técnico al tratarse de animales silvestres. Identificar cómo los estándares internacionales, las mejores prácticas y las experiencias de las partes pueden apoyar una mejor implementación de la Convención en lo relativo al comercio internacional de vida silvestre, en particular el transporte de especímenes vivos y muestras biológicas y veterinarias. Consideramos que iniciar este trabajo en esta sesión permitirá al comité contar con insumos concretos hacia nuestra siguiente reunión y, en su caso, formular recomendaciones oportunas al comité permanente. Con el fin de avanzar de manera ordenada y realista en este trabajo, nos gustaría escuchar por parte de la Secretaría sus sugerencias y guías sobre los pasos a seguir para completar el trabajo sobre la base de nuestra propuesta. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. Now I will invite the Secretariat General to explain the progress and how we move forward on this matter.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Mexico and Senegal for their proposal raising this issue. Now, the decision taken at COP20 needs some interpretation, as there are instructions to the Animals Committee and the Secretariat to submit recommendations from Decision 20.12 to the COP on gathering best practices and experiences concerning the transport of live animals and veterinary samples. In addition, Resolution Conf 10.21 on transport of live specimens provides the mandate to the Standing Committee for work on the guidance on non-air transport of live animals with scientific and technical inputs from the Animals and Plants Committees. Further, the decision doesn't mention how to collect this information. So after some very good dialogue with Mexico, also on behalf of Senegal, the Secretariat proposes the following approach and hopes that the Animals Committee finds it useful. Pursuant to Decision 20.12, paragraph C, the Secretariat will issue a notification to the parties, inviting them to share their best practices and experiences regarding the prevention, detection, and control of zoonotic risks and pathogen spread associated with international wildlife trade. The notification will also invite parties to provide scientific and technical inputs concerning the transport of live animals and biological and veterinary samples with a view to identifying measures that contribute to reducing the risk of zoonotic diseases and pathogen spread associated with wildlife trade. Then the Secretariat will compile all submissions received through this notification and submit a document to the 35th meeting of the Animals Committee for their consideration. We propose that, 1, AC 35 will review the information submitted in response to Decision 20.11 and formulate recommendations for consideration by the 21st meeting of the Conference of the Parties in line with the decision, and 2, with regard to the revision of the CITES guidance on the non-air transport of live animals, the Animals Committee will review the scientific and technical input provided by the parties and submit recommendations for consideration by the Standing Committee at its 82nd meeting. Thank you, Chair, and the Secretariat looks forward to any comments on this proposed approach to address the request from Mexico and Senegal.
Thank you, Secretariat General. I would now like to turn back to Mexico and Senegal and invite them to provide their views that's already proposed and forward, taking into consideration information provided by the Secretariat. Now I give the floor to the Senegal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Sénégal, tout en s'associant normalement, comme l'a présenté le Mexique, nous prenons bonne note des progrès accomplis par le secrétariat et présentés ici par Madame la secrétaire générale de la CITES. Vous savez, les zoonoses, c'est une question qu'on ne peut pas occulter. Parce que si un animal traverse la frontière, c'est que quelque part, un permis CITES a été émis. Donc, si nous insistons, c'est parce que nous devons prendre toutes les mesures pour s'assurer, comme l'a dit Madame la secrétaire, qu'il n'y a pas de risque de propagation d'agents pathogènes grâce à un permis CITES qui est émis. Voilà la quintessence de la question. Nous ne pouvons pas dire que ça ne nous concerne pas parce qu'il y a d'autres agences qui s'en occupent, mais qui est à l'origine de la traversée de la frontière de spécimens. C'est la CITES. Donc, je crois que nous devons revoir un peu notre position par rapport à ça. Nous nous réjouissons quand même des avancées significatives telles que déclinées ici par le secrétariat. Voilà la position du Sénégal.
Thank you, Senegal. I think there's really views that we are in lines. Is there any additional information that Mexico will provide or will respond with the proposal that we move forward for this matter?
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. En este momento simplemente agradecer a Senegal por la colaboración en la preparación de este documento y agradecer a la Secretaría por la propuesta para llevar a cabo este trabajo en el siguiente ciclo de gobernanza de CITES. Estamos de acuerdo en continuar, en proceder de la manera que ha sido sugerido. Muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you, Mexico. I would like to still open the floor to the parties that will take floor. I'm sorry, I will give the committee first, European representative.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to start by thanking the Secretariat for the constructive way forward as proposed, which we fully support, and also the constructive approach by Mexico and Senegal approving this way forward. We would, however, like to note that in many parties, including my own, Sweden, those working with CITES are often not the same authorities working on zoonotic disease and disease mitigation. CITES authorities are rarely the most competent or equipped authority to provide guidance and make recommendations on how to reduce the risk of disease emergence, stressing the need for national collaboration, national and international collaboration with IATA and other relevant organizations. This is already clearly stated in the COP20 decisions, which we continue to support, and we encourage all parties to prioritize increased collaboration with their national authority or authorities responsible for animal health and disease. And we will do our best to review the information that will be submitted for consideration at Animals Committee 35. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, European representative. Any members that will take floor? Okay, then I will give the parties, the observer parties. USA.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. The United States position on this issue is that legal and well-regulated wildlife trade, whether live animals or components thereof, is not currently a significant zoonotic disease pathway. CITES is not the appropriate authority to address this issue. Disease risk management is the technical mandate of the World Organization for Animal Health and the quadripartite One Health partners. The United States supports the existing CITES and World Organization for Animal Health joint program of work and information sharing, rather than CITES attempting to assert new and independent authority over animal health matters. The United States opposes any use of zoonotic disease prevention rationale as a backdoor justification for new trade suspensions or listing actions that are not grounded in a species and pathway-specific risk assessment. We do support the Animal Committee's continued practical cooperation with the International Air Transport Association on transport biosecurity, a targeted measure that is consistent with positions held by many different associations on preserving safe and legal movement of specimens. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, USA. Central Africa Republic.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Comme c'est la première fois que la République centrafricaine prend la parole, je saisis cette occasion pour vous féliciter pour votre nomination à la tête de ces assises. Et je félicite également le secrétariat pour l'organisation pratique des présentes assises et l'État suisse qui a permis que nous soyons là. L'aspect zoonose, comme avait évoqué tout à l'heure, ce n'est pas un doublon, mais une coordination nationale efficace pour gérer ce problème serait la bienvenue. Et c'est dans ce contexte que je soutiens ce qui a été avancé par le Mexique, le secrétariat, le Sénégal, pour qu'une note du secrétariat puisse parvenir aux partis afin que cette collaboration soit efficace et efficiente, parce que ce sont les organes de gestion CITES qui vont délivrer les permis CITES ou bien les certificats CITES pour que ces animaux puissent traverser les frontières. Alors, il serait vraiment important qu'on puisse insister là-dessus et que cette coordination puisse être efficace. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Central African Republic. And then I will invite Ghana.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ghana thanks Mexico and Senegal for preparing this timely and important document. We also align with the way forward proposed by the Secretariat. From Ghana's perspective, effective management of zoonotic risk requires close collaboration among CITES management authorities, scientific authorities, veterinary services, customs, etc. Strengthening these interagency collaborations under the One Health framework will improve surveillance, early detection, risk assessment, and coordinated response to potential disease threats. Ghana therefore encourages continued collaboration between the CITES and the CITES Secretariat and international organizations such as WHO, FAO, World Health Organization, etc. Their technical expertise and guidance will greatly assist parties in implementing internationally recognized standards while avoiding duplication of efforts. In addition, Ghana also encourages that any revised transport standards remain practical, science-based, and proportionate to risk, taking into account the capacities and resource constraints of developing countries. Finally, Ghana supports the establishment of the proposed intersessionary working groups and looks forward to actively contributing to its work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ghana. Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Мы благодарим Мексику и Сенегал за подготовленные материалы. С своей стороны хотели бы отметить, что системы по предотвращению ввоза и распространения возбудителей заразных болезней животных, в том числе общих для человека и животных, и товаров, которые не соответствуют ветеринарным требованиям, в ряде стран могут быть реализованы на национальном уровне, а также на региональном уровне. В этих целях обеспечивается ветеринарный контроль за подконтрольными товарами, включая товары для личного пользования. Примером взаимодействия государств при профилактике, диагностике, локализации и ликвидации очагов особо опасных карантинных и зооопасных болезней животных, осуществляемых на региональном уровне, является Евразийская экономическая комиссия. Однако, как уже было отмечено, данный вопрос важен и актуален для многих стран. Признавая вышеизложенное, предлагаем учитывать в подготавливаемых проектах документов национальные особенности и условия, в том числе и условия регулирования и распределения ответственности, как отметили коллеги из комитета, представляющие Европу. Спасибо.
Thank you, Russian Federation. I will close the list for the parties after Zimbabwe, Gambia, Canada, and Tanzania. And then I will take the floor for the observers, only one observer organizations, because all the parties, I think, have been similar views. Now I give the floor to the Zimbabwe.
Thank you so much, and we also want to appreciate Senegal and Mexico for the submission of this very important document. Chair, we align ourselves to the submission by the United States of America and also by the committee member for Europe. This issue, Chair, has been discussed extensively over an extended period of time. We believe that substantial information has already been shared with the relevant organizations which have got specific mandates in animal health, particularly the World Organization for Animal Health, FAO, and WHO. Additional information, Chair, can continue to be uploaded to the CITES webpage on the role of CITES in reducing the risk of future zoonotic disease emergence associated with international wildlife trade, making it readily available to all the users and stakeholders. Furthermore, existing mechanisms such as the collaborative partnership on sustainable wildlife management provide appropriate platforms through which information and expertise on this subject matter can continue to be shared. While we are not opposed to the issuance of a notification to the parties referred in the document for the purposes of collecting and compiling additional information, at this point in time, we do not consider the establishment of an intersessional working group to be necessary as of now. In addition, for now, Chair, we also do not see a need to consider amendments to Resolution 10.21 or to any other CITES guidelines on non-air transport of live animals and plants in the absence of new scientific evidence that would warrant such revisions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Now Gambia, please.
Thank you, Chair. The Gambia thanks Mexico and Senegal for bringing forward this important document and supports the recommendations put forward by Senegal, Mexico, and the Secretariat. The prevention of zoonotic risk associated with international wildlife trade is a shared priority that requires stronger cooperation between CITES authorities, veterinary services, public health authorities, and relevant international organizations, in line with the One Health approach as Ghana mentioned. The Gambia supports the proposed notification, inviting parties to share their experiences and best practices on the prevention, detection, and control of zoonotic risk and pathogen transmission associated with wildlife trade. Thank you.
Thank you, Gambia. Next, Canada.
Thank you, Chair. Canada would like to extend appreciation to Mexico and Senegal for this document. Canada is supportive of work relating to updating existing CITES guidelines on transport and standards and to strengthen best practices for the transport and trade in live animals and biological and veterinary samples. Canada is reassured that the intention of this work is not to duplicate ongoing work and collaboration undertaken by the quadripartite and WOA, nor the activities and information on international standards and protocols such as the IATA regulations. Canada is supportive of the Secretariat's proposed approach for these matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. Tanzania wishes to commend Mexico and Senegal for bringing this agenda back to discussion. It is critical to make sure that international trade in endangered species of wild fauna and flora does not cause the emerging of the zoonotic diseases. However, Tanzania wishes to align itself with the sentiment raised by United States and Zimbabwe that most of the issues raised also are within the national mandate to make sure that the countries control the diseases within their vicinity. Tanzania supports the issuance of a notification to collect the lesson learned, but does not supporting establishment of an intersection working group to further deliberate the matter. Thank you.
Okay, I will give the members, Africa.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. En tant que membre de la région Afrique, on ne peut pas ne pas parler des zoonoses qui sont une grosse préoccupation au niveau de cette région par rapport au développement de ces maladies, que ce soit au niveau national ou international. On remarque que ces zoonoses qui sont issues très souvent de la faune sauvage, de la manipulation, que ce soit au niveau national ou international, que ce soit le commerce ou non, il y a des risques qui sont documentés par rapport aux zoonoses qui sont aujourd'hui une préoccupation mondiale. La CITES est dans le commerce international et je pense que aussi bien le commerce national ou le commerce international, le fait de manipuler les spécimens constitue un risque en soi pour la transmission des maladies. Et ça, c'est valable pour la CITES ou pour les autres conventions ou également au niveau national. C'est un document important et les deux pays qui ont proposé cette proposition sont d'accord pour aller vers la notification. Je pense que c'était pour souligner l'importance de ce document et aller dans le sens du secrétariat comme les deux autres pays l'ont fait. Et voilà, c'était un peu ma position en tant que délégué de la région Afrique. C'était de souligner vraiment l'importance de ce document et des préoccupations au niveau national, mondial, de ces zoonoses et de l'approche une seule santé qu'on devrait mettre en œuvre pour limiter les risques de propagation de cette maladie. Merci.
Thank you, Africa. I think the views is in line. So I just want to give one intervention from the observer organizations. Born Free Foundations.
Thank you, Chair. As this is the first time we've taken the floor, I'd like to congratulate you on your appointment and thank the Secretariat for its organisation of the meeting. I'm making this intervention on behalf of 13 organisations, the names of which have been provided to the Secretariat for the record. We thank Mexico and Senegal for submitting AC 34 Doc 9.1, which we strongly support. International trade in live specimens creates multiple high-risk interfaces for pathogen transmission. As the document notes, transport is among the most dangerous points in the trade chain because stressed animals, mixed species, and close human-animal contact significantly increase spillover opportunities. Current CITES transport provisions do not adequately address these risks. ResConf 1021, Rev COP 19, focuses on injury and cruel treatment, but does not integrate modern One Health principles, the role of animal welfare and disease prevention, or contemporary disease mitigation standards. Decisions 20.10 to 20.13 explicitly call for updated zoonotic risk resources, strengthen collaboration with WOA, FAO, WHO, UNEP, and IATA, and improve transport guidance. The Animals Committee is mandated to contribute to this work. So we support the establishment of the proposed intersessional working group, which we think would provide the Animals Committee with the best way of considering information gathered from the notification and wider information on this issue in order to develop recommendations for Standing Committee as per Decision 20.11c and for COP21. Whichever way forward is decided upon, we emphasise the importance of this issue and the need for CITES to take a full part at both international and national levels in efforts to mitigate the risks of future zoonotic pathogen emergence from trade in CITES species, and we encourage parties to share their best practices through the proposed notification. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Born Free Foundations. I'm sorry, Senegal and Indonesia, if you have different perspectives on this, I saw all the views is in line actually, and we are going to move forward. We are not discussing in more deep in this, but we have a proposal that will go to the any further. It's not in this item right now. So if you have a different perspective, I will give the floor. But it's similar, then we can go to the conclusions.
It's fine.
Just read the guide. Okay, thank you for understanding. Now, I will read the conclusion concerning agenda item 9.2. 9.2, I conclude the Animal Committee note the update on the role of the CITES in reduction risk of the future zoonotic diseases emerge associated with the international wildlife trade contained in the AC 34 compendium. Concerning agenda item 9.1, I conclude that Animal Committee note the document submitted by Mexico and Senegal and will consider the document to be prepared by the Secretariat for the 35 meetings of the Animal Committee, AC 35. Thank you. If there is no objection by this conclusion, then I will close this agenda item. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. With your indulgence, may you repeat the actual conclusion to this issue for records and the possible consideration.
Yeah, thank you, Zimbabwe, for your reminding. So I just want to clarify that the decisions we have support from the members as well as the parties, and then in detail will be delivered by the Secretary General.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So pursuant to Decision 20.12, Paragraph C, the Secretariat will issue a notification to the parties inviting them to share their best practices and experiences regarding the prevention, detection, and control of zoonotic risks and pathogen spread associated with international wildlife trade. 2, the notification will also invite parties to provide scientific and technical input concerning the transport of live animals and biological and veterinary samples with a view to identifying measures that contribute to reducing the risk of zoonotic diseases and pathogen spread associated with wildlife trade. 3, the Secretariat will compile all submissions received through this notification and submit a document to the 35th meeting of the Animals Committee for their consideration. We propose that AC 35 will review the information submitted in response to Decision 2011 and formulate recommendations for consideration by the 21st meeting of the Conference of the Parties in line with the decision. And 2, with regard to the revision of the CITES guidance on the non-air transport of live animals, the Animals Committee will review the scientific and technical input provided by the parties and submit recommendations for consideration by the Standing Committee at its 82nd meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretary General. I think that's really clear already. Okay, we can move to the next agenda. Agenda item 31, African lion. I will invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. The document covers the implementation of 3 sets of decisions: the decisions on African lions, the decisions on support to the development of an African lion inventory and database, and the decisions on the trade resource kits for African lions and leopards. The recommendations for consideration by the Animals Committee are contained in paragraph 32 of the document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. Now I give the floor to the Zimbabwe as the chair of the African Lion Database Working Group for providing the update information regarding this document. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair. So just summarize the progress of this working group. Made under outcome 5.3 of the second range states meeting of the joint CITES CMS Africa Carnivores Initiative, focusing on the African Lion Database Working Group, which of course was chaired by Zimbabwe. The ALD is intended to serve as a centralized, standardized database for lion population across African range states, supporting lion conservation planning and decision making. Across the 3 online working group meetings held in June 2024, March 2025, and 13 May 2026, lion range states reviewed the purpose, governance needs, data requirements, and operational processes of this database, with a view to strengthening evidence-based conservation and management of African lion populations. The working group broadly recognized the need for a reliable, scientifically grounded lion database to support decision-making, population monitoring, and transboundary conservation. The African Lion Database was considered a useful platform that already captures essential information, whilst range states identified areas requiring further development, including genetic data, harmonized data collection methods, government validation, data ownership, access protocols, and governance arrangements. Key discussions focus on the role of IUCN as an owner of the database, the technical hosting arrangements, and the need for clear terms of use and protocols for data standardization. verification, submission, publication, and access, as well as secure and government-verified data inputs. Range states also emphasize the importance of national focal points, capacity building for data managers, technical support, IT, hardware and software support where needed, and additional cooperation mechanisms for transboundary lion populations. On the third meeting held in May this year, the working group reviewed updates from CITES COP20 and CMS COP15 decisions were shared, and that included decisions relevant for ALD funding and governance, preliminary outcomes of bilateral consultations with the 16 lion range states, and a live demonstration of the latest ALD online platform was also done. The proposed access system includes differentiated tiers for range states, researchers, and the public, whilst further clarification is still required on access to restricted data owned by the individual range states, especially between range states. The proposed next steps are for the CMS and CITES secretariats to support IUCN CATE specialist group in completing consultations with the outstanding range states for IUCN and the ALD manager to advance draft terms of use and data protocols, and for the working group to reconvene once consultations are complete. That is before the third range states meeting of the African Carnivores Initiative, planned for the third or fourth quarter of this year 2026 in Zimbabwe, where training and technical support as well as modalities on strengthening transboundary or regional collaboration will be further discussed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Now I will give the floor to the members represent Africa that wants to take the floor. No? Or the members? European Union. I'm sorry, Europe.
It's okay. Thank you, Chair. I would like to start by thanking the Secretariat and Zimbabwe for the report on the progress made in the implementation of the decisions related to African lions, and agree with all the recommendations in the document, but providing a few comments on recommendation little c, that invites ACI range states to consider the findings of the comparative study in the review of the guidelines, as well as the review of the CITES CMS ACI program of work. We would like to note the limitations of the comparative study as highlighted in the executive summary and explained in the report, and draw attention to the key findings of the comparative study as outlined in paragraph 13 of the present document, paying particular attention to the lack of national population estimates and trends, including knowledge of the most appropriate methods to use for surveys, and data on mortalities, including retaliatory killing. We would like to draw attention specifically to the the attention of the ACI range states specifically to the following parts of the ACI program of work and how the comparative study can be used in the review of the program of work. For Objective 6 of the Program of Work on Sustainable Use and Management, I would like to draw attention to the conclusion of the comparative study that while trophy hunting was not considered a key threat, it is important to ensure that regulations are as effective as possible, with systems such as adaptive age-based quotas noting that the best available evidence suggests a minimum of 6 years and ideally a minimum of 8 years where populations face various anthropogenic pressures. Therefore, we invite range states to consider these recommendations as they move forward with this work. In Objective 7, on illegal trade and illegal or incidental killing, we would like to highlight the need for activities that facilitate and improve knowledge and collection of data on illegal killing, seeing as the numbers reported by most range states in the comparative study were relatively low, despite retaliatory killings and poaching for parts being cited as key threats to lions, suggesting that the data does not adequately capture the true level of lion mortality. And finally, on Objective 11, Knowledge and Information, we would like to note that Result 11.4 in the program of work to conduct an inventory of all African lion populations remains to be implemented, drawing attention to the limitations outlined in the comparative study that the case studies in that study were selected based on the population data available, which can give some bias to populations that are less fragile, emphasizing the need to prioritize the more fragile populations identified. Thank you very much.
Thank you, European. Any other members will take floor? Africa, please.
Oui, merci. Nous nous alignons sur ce que l'Europe a dit et nous ajoutons comme recommandation à ce document qu'il faudrait prendre acte des conclusions de cette étude comparative. Il faudrait également encourager les États de l'aire de répartition à renforcer le suivi scientifique des populations des lions, à harmoniser les méthodes de recensement et à améliorer la collecte des données sur la mortalité et les menaces, et inviter les partenaires internationaux à accroître l'appui technique et financier destiné à la conservation des lions, recommander que toute mesure concernant le commerce international ou les trophées soit fondée sur une évaluation scientifique des impacts sur la conservation, les moyens de subsistance des communautés locales et le maintien des habitats, et également encourager le partage des bonnes pratiques de gestion, notamment les quotas adaptatifs, les critères d'âge pour les prélèvements, les mécanismes transparents de redistribution des revenus aux communautés et les mesures de réduction des conflits hommes-lions. Enfin, nous sollicitons que le secrétariat CITES, en collaboration avec les États de l'aire de répartition, l'UICN et la CMS, puisse poursuivre les travaux sur les lacunes identifiées dans cette étude, notamment concernant les populations transfrontalières, les mortalités non déclarées et l'efficacité des différents modèles de gestion. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Africa. Now I invite the parties from the Brain State of the Lion. They will take floor. Central African Republic.
The Central African Republic would like to make a proposal regarding AC34, document 31, page 6, African lion, Panthera leo, recommendation point 32C. The Central African Republic thanks the Secretariat for preparing document AC34, doc 31, and acknowledge the relevance and validity of the results of the comparative study of African lion population trends and conservation and management practice. We would like to emphasize that appropriate survey methodologies must be adapted to the local situation and on-the-ground realities, and that there cannot be a single universally applicable most appropriate survey methodology for all lion populations. Currently, leading scientists and organizations in this field are calling for a golden standard for monitoring lion population to which all must adhere without exception in order for their data to be considered. However, these most appropriate survey methodologies were developed primarily in East and Southern Africa under optimal conditions, and given the different local conditions, are not applicable in this form in Central and West Africa. The Central African Republic therefore proposed developing best survey methods tailored to the local condition, in this case Central and West Africa, and whenever possible prioritizing and promoting community-based, low-tech, inexpensive and easy-to-implement methods that can be repeated frequently and regularly in order to track trends and estimate population sizes of lions at the local, national and regional level. The Central African Republic also welcomes the offer of support in capacity building and monitoring its lion population, including in cooperation with recognized international research institutions. We thank the Secretary for considering this proposal.
Thank you, Central African Republic. Then I will give the floor to the reign state of the parties that reign state of the lion. Okay, Sénégal, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Sénégal prend la parole pour soutenir ce qu'a dit la représentante de l'Afrique et ce que l'Afrique centrale vient de dire. Vous savez, c'est une espèce en vitesse de perdition très accélérée et que le conflit homme-faune est en train aussi d'occuper dans d'autres contrées des proportions inattendues. Parce que le lion, quand il tue un animal, par exemple, surtout quand il vient sur les animaux domestiques, il mange mais il ne termine pas. Mais il va revenir dans les 48 heures ou les 72 heures pour prendre le reste. Qu'est-ce que la population fait? Ils mettent du poison sur ces carcasses et quand le lion vient, il meurt. Et quand les vautours viennent, ils meurent. Donc je crois que c'est un problème. Les enquêtes, il faut les prendre comme l'a dit la République centrafricaine. Beaucoup travailler sur les populations locales, leur collaboration, pour vraiment arriver à des résultats très probants. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. I give the floor to the parties. Kenya.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya is one of the registries for the African lion. Takes note of the summary of the key findings as presented by the Secretariat. We also note that we may not have at the moment a comprehensive report on the comparative study, and we consider that more time may be needed and more interrogation of the study be done, and especially under the framework of the joint CITES CMS SCI, the initiative, so that we can get a better understanding of the impacts. That said, Mr. Chair, would like to align ourselves with the statements given by our Africa regional representatives and the request that, as you have said, that we need to get more information and that the registries for this species and the other parties work closely, and especially the implementation of the joint program of the CITES and CMS under the African Canvas Initiative, where the species conspicuously takes a big position when it comes to the discussion of this initiative. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kenya. Now, I give the floor to South Africa.
Thank you, Chair. So we really welcome the progress made under the joint CITES CMS African Carnivores Initiative regarding the review of the guidelines of the conservation of lions in Africa and the development of the African Lion Database. We wish to just highlight 3 points here. We feel it is important to reflect the comments and the contributions submitted by all range states in the final outputs. We also feel that consideration should be given to ensuring alignment with existing national data management systems and reporting frameworks to promote efficiency, consistency, and interoperability. This is in relation to the development of the African Lion Database. And also we wish to emphasize that data submission and reporting requirements associated with the database should remain practical, streamlined, and not impose an undue administrative burden on range states. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, South Africa. Now I give the floor to Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. Tanzania wishes also to commend the analysis provided by the Secretariat and also the progress report by Zimbabwe on the development of African Lion Database, as well as the sentiment raised by the Republic of South Africa. Regarding the comparative study which was conducted, the issue of additive mortality, which is caused by retaliatory killing, has been adequately addressed in the document, as well as trophy hunting. But Tanzania is a country with the largest population of lion, we have developed the human-elephant conflict mitigation strategy, which also provides strategies of which the community who are living with the lion can implement to address the issues of lion attack to the livestock and to the people as well. And this also has enabled us to address the issues of retaliatory killing, and we invite other parties to learn from us the way in which we are integrating this into our conservation agenda. However, the issues of decline in prey bears was also noted in the guideline for lion conservation in Africa as a critical to the decline in the lion population. So we would also like to request other lion range states to take into account that retaliatory killing contribute less than the decline in prey bears contribute into the decline in the lion population. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanzania. Then I give to Zambia. Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia would like to align with Zimbabwe and Tanzania on this matter. Chair, Zambia expresses its strong support for the work of the Secretariat under the African Carnivore Initiative and welcomes the comprehensive update in the document AC 34, Doc 31. We particularly appreciate the inclusive process to review the guidelines for the conservation of lions in Africa and the progress towards establishing the African Lion Database. We note the findings of the comparative study, including the urgent need to strengthen national lion population surveys, improve knowledge of appropriate methodologies, and build technical capacity. As highlighted, the most frequent reported data gap was national population estimates and trends in the species. And addressing this will be essential for effective implementation of Decision 19.208, revised COP20. Zambia supports the continued development of the lion database and encourages donors to assist in completing its full functionality and operationalization. We also join the Secretariat in urging parties to share any existing trade resource kits for lions and leopards to support harmonized guidance. Zambia reaffirms its commitment to collaborative science-based conservation of lion and supports the recommendation presented. Thank you, Chair.
Now I give to, thank you, Zambia, then I'll give to Botswana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As this is my first time to take the chair, I wish to congratulate you for being nominated to chair this Animals Committee, and I wish you well. We commit our support during your tenure. The Republic of Botswana also extends gratitude to the host, Switzerland, and also the CITES Secretariat for an excellent job in organizing this meeting. Mr. Chair, Botswana is also a REN state, and wish to express our strong support for the Secretariat's document before us, and also acknowledges and thanks Zimbabwe for the update of the work done under or for lion conservation. We are participating in all the program, Chair. We also wish to align ourselves to the Africa representative, particularly on the issues of human-wildlife conflict. We have recently just worked on our NDF on lions, and we have noted a lot of lions have been lost to human-wildlife conflict. over the years, we have lost up to 35 lions that we were able to capture. We know that is only part of the losses, many of which we are not capturing. We, at the end, commit and reaffirm our commitment to the conservation of the species. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Pioswana. Now I invite observer organization. I will invite two observer organizations to. Okay, CMS, I give the floor to CMS.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing us to speak. The CMS Secretariat welcomes the continued collaboration between CITES on African lions, including through the joint CITES CMS African Carnivores Initiative. CMS also supported the comparative study of African lion population trends and conservation and management practices. And I would like to recall the joint CITES CMS IUCN Lion Web portal, which CMS hosts to support information sharing on African lion conservation and management. In addition, CMS is working to support the establishment of the African lion database, including by coordinating a working group with 12 lion range states under the ACIA. CMS looks forward to continued cooperation with CITES, range states, and the IUCN on this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CMS. Now I give the floor to Suko, South Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Document 30, all protocols observed in the way of congratulations and appreciations. Document 31 points this committee in the right direction. Range state data, survey capacity, proper NDFs, the African lion database, trade resource kits, and practical conservation measures. It also records the threats range states identify, which is human lion conflict, illegal killing, poaching for parts, habitat loss, prey depletion, and weak population and mortality data. That is where the work should sit. We must therefore be careful with Animals Committee Doc Inf 8, tabled through the United States but written by World Animal Protection and Bloodlines. We heard the United States support science-based NDFs, legal trade, respect for range states, and case-by-case review, instead of blanket suspicion of captive source trade in particular. We welcome that. But Inf 8 reads as advocacy from organizations opposed to the sector. If the United States does not endorse its claims and recommendations, the record should say so. It is an NGO information document, not a party position. The precautionary approach does not mean prohibition first and evidence later. It means considering the risk of policy change. If lawful, verified, and traceable supply is closed, demand may move into illegal channels. For lions, poison is cheap, quiet, and destructive. Recent Kruger survey work records concern over poaching and poisoning, including poached study lions. That should make us cautious before breaking lawful systems that can be inspected and traced. Suka SA asks the committee to keep item 31 grounded in evidence, range state management, and real compliance work. I thank you.
Thank you, Suko. So I think by this intervention, I will close the agenda. We see all the views and the concerning agenda item 31. I conclude that Animal Committee agrees the recommendation in the paragraph 32 of the document, and the Animal Committee notes the comments made by the representative of Africa, Europe, African lion range state, and invite the range state to consider this in the further development of the African lion database and the review of the joint CITES CMS SI program of work. Thank you.
Seeing no objection.
If there is no objection of the conclusions, then I will close the item agenda. Thank you. Now, agenda item 45, report of the specialist on zoological nomenclature. I would like to invite Peter Paul from represent the zoological nomenclature, please.
Thank you, Chair. Document AC34, document 45, provides us with an update on CITES animal nomenclature developments since COP20 late last year. Paragraphs 5 to 7 and Annex 2 report on the ongoing evaluation for possible update of CITES bird nomenclature, and I would really like to thank BirdLife International for the extensive assistance provided with this continuing analysis. Paragraphs 3 and paragraphs 8 to 12 with Annex 1 note the progress made towards evaluation and preparation of updated checklists for specific priority animal groups and other CITES listed animals. Of these, the collaborative work towards a comprehensive, up-to-date and scientifically broadly agreed checklist for stony corals is of greatest significance. Additional details are provided in the European Union's document 18 to this meeting, and we warmly thank the European Union for this initiative. With the amendments adopted at COP20 to Resolution 9.25 on implementation of the Convention for Species in Appendix 3 and to Resolution 12.11 on standard nomenclature, as noted in paragraphs 15 and 16, there is now a clear path and process to update any outdated scientific names of taxa listed in Appendix 3. This path was already taken by China to update its red coral listings, as described in notification to the parties 2026/018 of 27th January 2026, and we thank China for blazing this trail. Annex 3 to the present document lists the animal species in Appendix 3 for which the scientific community has generally accepted updates to scientific names, and listing parties are invited to consider those updates. Finally, it has been brought to our attention that a history of successively adopted nomenclatural standard references for wild sheep has apparently resulted in the accidental deletion of Corsican mouflon from the appendices at COP17. This needs further evaluation. Dear Chair and committee members, you will appreciate that there is a very large body of nomenclatural work to be done between now and COP21. I therefore invite the committee to establish an intersessional working group on nomenclature that will work through electronic means. A potential mandate for such a working group is suggested in paragraph 19 of the present document. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, nomenclator. And then I give the floor to the members. European representative.
Thank you, Chair. The European region would like to thank the nomenclature specialists for the considerable work reflected in the document. We support the establishment of the proposed intersessional working group. In particular, we welcome the progress being made on coral taxonomy. As highlighted in the report, substantial differences exist between the current CITES standard reference and the current scientific understanding on coral taxonomy. An up-to-date and scientifically robust nomenclature provides the foundation for accurate species identification, consistent reporting, and sound scientific decision-making. We therefore strongly support continued work towards an updated coral checklist and stand ready to contribute together with interested parties and experts to support this progress ahead of Animals Committee 35. As will be also discussed under the next agenda item, this work is also of fundamental importance for the implementation of making NDFs. Furthermore, and very specifically, we would like to also invite the working group under mandate a to also consider, in addition to the animal taxa presented in Annex 1 to Doc AC 45, adding 6 further species of Tylototriton to Appendix 2 that have been recently described after the listing of the genus in Appendix 2 and after the latest update of the standard nomenclature reference. But I'm happy to send the names in writing to the Secretariat and the nomenclature specialist. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeroen. Any members want to take the floor? Now I give the floor to observer parties. Brazil?
Thank you. As this is the first time Brazil takes the floor in plenary, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to our gracious host, Switzerland, and to thank the CITES Secretariat for the excellent preparations. We also commend you, Mr. Chair, for your effective guidance and wish you every success in leading our work. Brazil would like to thank the nomenclature specialists for the considerable work undertaken in preparing this document. At present, Brazil considers it premature to recognize the genus Arapaima as comprising at least 5 distinct species for CITES purpose, as proposed in Annex 1 of the present document. The taxonomic change proposed in 2013 do not, in our view, provide a sufficiently robust basis for such a revision. One publication proposed the revalidation of Arapaima agassizi based primarily on the original description and illustration of the holotype, while indicating that a broader taxonomic revision would follow. To our knowledge, that revision has never been published. A second publication described Arapaima leptosoma based on a single juvenile specimen. Since then, several independent genetic studies have examined populations from across the Amazon basin using a range of molecular markers. An integrative study published this month combined genetic and morphological analysis of wild populations throughout the Amazon basin. The authors, again, found low genetic divergency among populations and concluded that the observed morphological variation reflects natural intraspecific variability rather than evidence of multiple species. Accordingly, they recommend recognizing Arapaima gigas as the only valid species. Until more robust evidence becomes available, Brazil believes that maintaining the current taxonomy best serves nomenclatural stability and supports effective conservation and implementation of the convention. We look forward to share more information within the working group. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. Then I give the floor to South Africa.
Thank you, Chair. The Republic of South Africa thanks the zoological nomenclature specialist and the Secretariat for the extensive work reflected in the document. We recognize that accurate and up-to-date nomenclature is fundamental to the effective implementation of the Convention. South Africa notes the progress made in reviewing the proposed nomenclatural updates and assessing the potential use of the 25 AV list as future reference for birds. Of particular interest to South Africa is the evaluation of the taxonomy and nomenclature of the genus Giraffa, as noted by CITES COP20. South Africa considers the evaluation of the taxonomy and nomenclature of Giraffa to be a priority and encourages the proposed intersessional working group to give this work appropriate attention ahead of AC 35. South Africa supports the establishment of the intersessional working group, and we look forward to contributing to the review of the nomenclatural updates. Thank you.
Thank you, South Africa. Any other observer parties will take the floor? No, I invite observer organizations. CMS.
Thank you. CMS welcomes the discussion on taxonomy and nomenclature, including our continued alignment between CMS and CITES on this matter. We would like to flag one recent development of relevance to this item. At CMS COP15, parties renewed the concerted action for the giraffe, which now calls for the use of the revised taxonomy recognizing 4 giraffe species: the Maasai, northern reticulated, and southern giraffe. This follows the recent review by the IUCN SSC Giraffe and Okapi Specialist Group, which recognizes giraffe as 4 distinct species rather than 1 species with subspecies. This update may have significant conservation implications, including for the assessment of population status, threats, range states, and conservation priorities. CMS would therefore welcome continued exchange between CITES, CMS, and the IUCN on the implications of this revised taxonomy, in line with ongoing efforts to harmonize taxonomy and nomenclature across the 2 conventions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CMS. Any others observer organizations that will take the floor? No? Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, the committee agrees to establish an intersessional working group on zoological nomenclature with a mandate as set up in the paragraph 19 of the document, with the addition made by the representative of Europe to include 6 species of Tylototriton, and noting the comment made during the decision. During the discussion, sorry, the decision. Sorry. Now I invite Mr. Peter Paul van Dijk to be the chair of this international working group. Thank you. I would like to invite the parties who will join to the intersessional working groups. Okay. The members first. Asia. European, of course. Okay, now I invite the parties, observer parties who will join to the intersessional working group. I will read out. United States of America, Italy, Australia, Lao PDR, Brazil, Zimbabwe, Ireland, Mexico, Japan, United Kingdom, South Africa, China, Germany, Tanzania, Netherlands, France, Botswana, Indonesia, Portugal, and Zambia. Observer organization will join to the intersessional working group. Sorry, Portugal you will include.
Yeah.
SSN, parrot breeder South Africa, South Africa Taxi and Tan, Safari Club Foundation, IWMC, UNEP WCMC, Center Biological Diversity, Safari Club International, BirdLife, South Africa Predator Association, CMS, Conservation Force, Wild Ranging South Africa, IUCN,
International Fur Federation.
International Fur Federations, Professional Hunter South Africa, Human World Organization, yeah. Shuko South Africa, GGT, International International Professional Hunters, sorry. Okay, with the establishment of the intersessional working group, I conclude the agenda item is closed. Agenda item 18, non-settlement findings, NDF and nomenclature for corals. This document was submitted by European Union and Indonesia. It highlights the progress made by CITES NDF guidance project. I'm sorry, I would like to invite European Union to introduce the document in detail. Thank you. European Union.
European region. Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'm pleased to introduce this document, which has been submitted together by the European Union and Indonesia. We particularly welcome the opportunity to present a joint perspective from a major coral reef range state and exporting party and a major importing region, reflecting practical experience from different parts of the coral trade chain. Coral reefs are among the world's most biodiverse ecosystems and are increasingly under pressure from climate change, including widespread coral bleaching and the degradation of reef habitats. At the same time, stony corals are among the most highly traded live CITES-listed animal taxa. Different coral taxa also vary considerably in their susceptibility and resilience to these pressures. This makes scientifically robust NDFs particularly important. We would first like to acknowledge the important progress made through the development of the CITES NDF guidance. It provides an excellent foundation for parties undertaking NDFs. However, while the existing guidance covers aquatic species more broadly, there is currently no guidance specifically for coral species. And the purpose of this document is to share some of the practical challenges encountered when preparing NDFs and to invite discussion and collaboration with other parties and experts. As highlighted under the previous agenda item, robust NDFs depend fundamentally on clear and up-to-date taxonomy. The report of the nomenclature specialist clearly demonstrates the scale of the challenge for corals. Scientific understanding has advanced considerably since the current standard CITES references were adopted, and in many cases names still recognized under the nomenclature, CITES nomenclature, no longer correspond clearly to well-defined biological taxa. And this creates uncertainty not only for species identification, but also for the assessments and the preparations of NDFs. So we are very happy to work with a nomenclature specialist and its alternate on that matter. Taxonomy, however, is only one part of the picture. Coral NDFs also present challenges relating to data availability, the appropriate biological scale for assessment, trade reported at genus level, and the need to consider broader pressures such as climate change and bleaching alongside international trade. And reliable trade data are another essential component of NDFs. Their value depends on consistent reporting and scientifically robust conversion factors that allow meaningful interpretation of the potential impacts of harvest and trade. And given the unique biology of corals, the prevalence of mariculture, and the particular way corals are traded under CITES, the EU considered that coral taxa may benefit from more specific guidance to complement the existing NDF guidance. And through the scientific review group, the European Union will further examine these issues and consider what additional elements could support more consistent and scientifically robust coral NDFs. We see this as a collaborative process and would very much welcome the experience and perspective of coral reef nations, importing parties, and relevant scientific experts. Finally, we would like to stress that this document is at present not intended to request additional work from the Animals Committee. Rather, it is intended to provide transparency on the practical challenges we have and to signal our commitment to work
collaboratively with interested parties and experts to strengthen the scientific basis for coral NDFs over time. Thank you.
Thank you, European. Now I invite nomenclators to give the response on this regarding this.
Thank you. I just welcome the intervention by the Europe. I welcome the presentation of these documents and look forward to a very constructive collaboration, and hopefully we will have a draft call checklist ready for AC35. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members will take the floor? Now I give the floor to the observer parties. Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia is pleased to co-submit this document with the European Union. As a coral exporting party, Indonesia supports the development of coral-specific NDF guidance to address the unique challenges of coral biology, mariculture, taxonomy, and climate change, thereby promoting more consistent and science-based implementation of CITES. Indonesia also supports the development of an updated CITES standard nomenclature for corals based on a timestamp version of worms. And we look forward to continued collaboration with the AU, the Secretariat, and other parties in advancing this important work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. The UK thanks the European Union and Indonesia for this document. As a party required also through our legislation to make NDFs for Appendix 2 imports, and as a significant importer of corals, the UK recognises the challenge summarised in the document in relation to making NDFs for stony corals. We agree that the CITES standard nomenclature for corals is outdated, and parties have been generally supportive of updating its nomenclature. Therefore, we thank the EU for its kind offer to produce with UNEP WCMC a nomenclature document comparing a time-stamped version of worms, the World Register of Marine Species, with the existing CITES standard reference for consideration by AC35. We encourage parties, experts, and stakeholders to engage with work relating to stony corals to ensure effective implementation for these taxa. We take note of this document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, UK. Next, I give the floor to Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Japan thanks Indonesia and EU for presenting this document, which raises challenge of coral NDF due to current nomenclature. Japan welcomes the way forward presented in Doc 18. In this opportunity, Japan would like to recall that NDF should be implemented based on Resolution Conf 16.7 on NDF, and NDF guidance is supplementary and non-binding document to support implementation of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Ireland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Non-detriment findings for corals are an issue that has dogged me personally through my long career, and this document is, if anything, overdue. But together with this document and the decisions taken, the recommendations rather made this morning on inclusion of some corals in the significant trade review, this committee has taken a major step forward in addressing what has been a long-standing problem. So it's an honour to sit next to one of the co-proponents, and we thank both co-proponents for the document. Thank you.
Thank you, Ireland. Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Australia thanks the European Union and Indonesia for this paper. Australia responded to the paper and sees value in improving clarity around nomenclature and a reliable reference area for taxonomy to support trade and non-detriment findings. While Australia finds the NDF guidance currently available on the CITES website useful and suitably flexible, it is open to a collaborative review of existing guidance to identify improvements that will help coral trading nations. Australia is, however, not supportive of developing a completely new NDF module for coral, given the broad nature of the marine NDF module already in place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. Any other parties will take floor? Now I give the floor to the observer organization. Okay, thank you. Concerning agenda item 18, I conclude the committee notes document AC 34, Doc 18, and welcome to the work on coral proposed by European Union and Indonesia. No objections on this? Okay, then I close the item agenda. Thank you. Agenda item 23, trade in stony corals. I will invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. This document addresses Decision 19.177 RevCop 20, which directs the Animals Committee to review the conversion factors used to analyse coral trade in the review of significant trade process. The Secretariat proposes that the Animals Committee continue this work and establish an intersessional working group to review available information with the mandate provided in paragraph 13. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I open the floor to the members of the committee. European representative.
We would like, thank you, Chair. We would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing this document and welcome the work undertaken to review the current conversion factors for stony corals. We share the concerns expressed in the document regarding the continued use of outdated and overly generalized conversion factors. So, to be brief, we support further work to review and improve existing conversion factors and the establishment of the working group, and we consider that it is essential that it includes strong representation from coral reef range states together with relevant scientific and technical experts with practical experience in coral biology, harvest, trade and monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you, European. I give the floor to Oceania.
Thank you, Chair. Oceania thanks the Secretariat for the preparation of the present document. Oceania recognises the importance of progressing work on coral conversion factors, which remains a matter of practical significance for a number of parties within the Oceania region. Improved understanding and application of conversion factors can support consistent implementation of the Convention and contribute to more accurate reporting and management of trade. I note that the majority of coral exporting parties from the Oceania region are not present at the current meeting. Given the importance of ensuring that perspectives and practical experiences of range states exporting coral, the Oceania region strongly supports the establishment of an intersessional working group. Such a mechanism would facilitate broader participation and engagement, particularly from coral reef nations and relevant technical experts, helping to ensure that this work benefits from a diverse range of scientific management and implementation perspectives. This will be particularly important in developing outcomes that are practical, evidence-based and applicable across different regional and trade contexts. Oceania therefore supports the recommendations in the present document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Oceania. Any members? No, then I give the floor to the observer parties. Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia thanks the Secretariat for the document AC34.23 and recognize the need to update the coral conversion factors to ensure more accurate analysis under the RST. As a coral reef nation with active coral management and ongoing trade monitoring, Indonesia sees this work as directly relevant for improving the quality of our national reporting and ensuring that trade assessment reflect real conditions on the ground. We support the establishment of an intersessional working group and pleased to join and contribute to its work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. United States of America.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. The United States supports the formation of an intersessional working group to clarify issues within the complex trade of stony corals. We, however, respectfully recommend consideration of an expansion of the scope of this group to address additional pressing issues in need of clarification that impact the trade in these specimens. For example, whether or not fossil sclerotinia rock that is fixed to the base of a non-CITES listed coral should or could require a CITES permit. This demonstrates the complex nature of the trade in stony corals and that this issue should be approached with great care. The order Sclerotinia contains over 1,700 species, many of which are not threatened by international trade currently and therefore do not meet the criteria for CITES listing. The working group could consider whether the listing of Sclerotinia should be reevaluated and make recommendations for specific species that may fit the CITES listing criteria. Doing so could reduce the burden on the Secretariat and on parties and focus those resources to species that are most in need of protection. Thank you.
Thank you, USA. Now invite United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. The UK thanks the Secretariat for the preparation of this document and supports the establishment of an intersessional working group with the focused mandate proposed to improve conversion factors. We agree that the membership of this working group should include interested coral reef nations and relevant experts whose knowledge and experience would provide valuable input to this work. We therefore support the proposed outreach to these stakeholders. We support also Australia's recommendation as set out in its response to the notification that future reviews should consider including provisions for the regular assessment of conversion factors to ensure that they remain appropriate in light of future changes in the live coral fishery and evolving market demands. Just said that the UK is a significant importer of coral specimens, and we recognise the importance of improving the accuracy and consistency of reporting on coral trade volumes. Enhanced reporting should help contribute to the sustainability of international trade. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Australia. Now, Netherlands.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Netherlands wants to thank the Secretariat for preparing this document, and Australia with Mexico in particular for providing information and sharing their insights. The Netherlands supports the updated guidelines on conversion factors for coral trade units. We only have technical comments by suggesting that the document may become more clear when source code is taken into account. Most trade of live corals for the aquarium industry concerns wild-caught corals, and the conversion of trade units would be relevant here. We recommend that this source code should be more specifically mentioned in the document. However, point 11c on page 3 is about coral fragmentation or fragging, for which source codes F or C would apply. These fragmented corals are usually grown on an artificial substrate, a pedestal, which would make it obvious that these corals should be reported in numbers of specimens, because they are individually packed and the substrate should not be included in weight measurements. In conclusion, we think that this document might benefit from the explicit inclusion of source codes. Thank you.
Thank you, Netherlands. Now I invite Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Australia supports the recommendations in AC 34 Doc 23, in particular the request from the Secretariat to identify coral reef nations and experts to be involved in the working group. We agree with Mexico's position that the use of a single conversion factor for all live corals is leading to overestimations or underestimations for different genera. Little progress was made on conversion factors following COP19, and as such, Australia considers it timely and appropriate for an intersessional working group to focus on updating these conversion factors. Revised conversion factors will address issues with outdated conversion factors that are resulting in misleading trade data and distorted data that cannot be reconciled with original harvest quotas. Australia has previously submitted potential estimated conversion factors for several coral species and genera based on expert advice used to establish our most recent coral NDFs. We consider the updated conversion factors will provide a reasonable estimate of coral trade from Australia. However, additional data from other coral producing parties would assist in determining whether there are regional differences in the weight of traded coral specimens. We strongly support the recommendation of the Secretariat to approach coral reef nations and experts to ensure the working group has a variety of inputs on these matters, including for Oceania, the South Pacific Regional Environment Programme. Australia does not support the expansion of the intersessional working group mandate as proposed by the United States of America or the Netherlands. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. Now I give the floor to Ireland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In brief, we support the creation of the intersessional working group and reaching out to range countries and experts. We do support the focus on conversion factors. We do, however, think they're inextricably linked with source code issues, but we wouldn't support any further expansion of the mandate beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ireland. Mexico.
Gracias, señor presidente. Nos asociamos a lo expresado por la delegación de Irlanda también. No estamos de acuerdo en que se expanda el mandato del grupo. Gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. Now I invite observer organization. European Pet Organization.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me the floor. I'm also speaking on behalf of a number of other organisations whose names I'll provide to the Secretariat. As I missed it in my last intervention, we'd like to congratulate you on your chairmanship and extend our thanks to the Secretariat for their tireless organisation of this meeting. We welcome the formation of an intersessional working group regarding conversion factors for corals, an issue that has been a source of inaccurate recording of trade data. Unreliable data, as highlighted by organisations such as the UK Centre for Environment, Fisheries and Aquaculture Sciences, severely impacts our understanding of true trade trends and sustainability. During the 33rd meeting of the Animals Committee, a working group was struck to review the resolutions relevant to the trade in stony corals. We would support suggestions made within that working group to simplify the reporting units of live coral into generalised size categories for all taxa, similar to those employed for leather goods. This would allow for more effective and consistent monitoring of trade across all parties going forward, whilst also simplifying the reporting requirements for both traders and law enforcement. We remain committed to supporting this ongoing review process into the implementation of the Convention for the Trade in Stony Corals and stand ready to assist with the relevant expertise in how live coral is traded globally. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think by no request for the floor, we will conclude this item agenda. Concerning agenda item 23, I conclude that the Animals Committee agree the recommendations in paragraph 13.
No.
And of course, we cannot expand scope beyond the mandate that has been in the decision 19.1.77 Ref COP 20. So now we establish the intersessional working group. The intersessional working group will be chaired by myself and Mr. Andre Morel from the Oceania. Okay. Then I will invite other members that will join. Okay. Parties who will join, please. I will read out. China, Australia, Italy, Japan, Germany, Portugal, France, Indonesia, UK, Kenya, Belgium, USA, Canada. I think Portugal you already included. Now I invite observer organizations.
We only have 14 parties.
OV, FAO, European Pet Organization, UNEP WCMC, Animal Interests, AKI, Center Biological Diversity, IWMC. I think OFI and European Pet Organization you have been included. Thank you. I think by establishing the intersessional working group, I close this agenda item. Then we move to the next agenda item. Agenda item 20, review of the resolution COP 8.13, Rev COP 17 on use of code microchip implant for making live animals in trade. I would like to invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Chair. Decision 20.133 directs the Animals Committee to consider whether Resolution Conf 813 on the use of coded microchip implants for marking live animals in trade and related resolutions should be amended, consolidated, or replaced with a new resolution or technical guidance covering marking techniques and standards. In fulfillment of paragraph A of Decision 20.132, the Secretariat has prepared an overview of all currently valid resolutions dealing with the issue of marking, which is presented in the annex to the document. To support the implementation of paragraph B of Decision 20.132, the Secretariat has started to compile an inventory of different marking methods, which are summarised in paragraphs 11 to 27. Information relating to each marking method is being collected, and this will form the basis for the development of the guidance by the Secretariat, in collaboration with the Secretariat of the International Organization for Standardization, or ISO, and other relevant experts, supported by funding from Switzerland. However, before developing the guidance, the Secretariat seeks the advice of the Animals Committee on the issues outlined in paragraph 9. The next steps for the Secretariat will be to prepare draft guidance, circulate it to parties for comment through a notification, revise the guidance based on feedback, and submit it to AC 35 for consideration. So the Animals Committee is invited to consider the recommendations in paragraph 28. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now I will open the floor to the members, especially on focus on the paragraph A and B, because in the paragraph C we will discuss in international working group. Okay, now invite the observer parties. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. When assessing supply chains, we frequently encounter challenges and gaps in the available knowledge and methodologies concerning the marking and traceability of parts and derivatives. Thus, in response to the question set out in paragraph 9, Brazil considers that it is important that the draft guidance covers non-live specimens, parts, and derivatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. Now I give the floor to Germany.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to thank the Secretariat for preparation of a document and the considerable progress that has been made in the implementation of Decision 20.132 in relation to the general topic of marking methods for live animals, and in particular the use of transponders. We would like to highlight a project that has been commissioned by the German CITES Scientific Authority and has been conducted by the organization BNA Germany. The project includes an evaluation of different commonly applied marking methods, focusing on transponders, closed bird rings, and photo identification. The results include recommendations for the appropriate use of marking methods for CITES-listed vertebrate taxa with relevant information on the reliability, manipulation risk, practicality, and potential animal welfare implications, which are also outlined as relevant factors in paragraph 7 of AC 34 Doc 20. The project will be finalized during the next month, and a written report of this project will be published in English later this year. Furthermore, we would like to comment on paragraph 13 of AC 34 Doc 20 that includes considerations on natural markings as a non-invasive method of identification. In this regard, we would like to highlight the importance of photo identification based on natural markings as marking method. In particular, photo identification is important for species, or at least juveniles and subadults of species that are small and or have low rates that not allow the use of other marking methods such as transponders. This is in particular the case for many CITES-listed reptile species. While we acknowledge certain limitations of food identification as marking method in the context of trade regulations, the increasing use of automated food identification software, including AI-based approaches, can help to significantly increase the reliability, verifiability, and consistency of this method in the future, making it also a credible tool for marking live animals in the context of trade control. Regarding the specific questions raised by the Secretariat in paragraph 9, we suggest the following. Regarding paragraph 9a, we suggest to focus on marking methods for live animals in the guidance, as this has been the original scope of this work stream, also considering the availability of limited capacity and resources. Regarding paragraph 9b, we suggest to additionally engage with pet owner and breeder associations in the preparation of the draft guidance as important stakeholders that hold much expertise in relation to the marking of live animals. Lastly, we agree to the establishment of the intersessional working group with the mandate as proposed in paragraph 28c, and looking forward to participate in the working group. Thank you.
Thank you, Germany. USA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to comment on this. The United States absolutely supports traceability measures, such as transponders or microchips, when the physiology of the animal allows the microchip to be implanted in a way that carries low risk of injury to the animal, either at the time of insertion or throughout the lifetime of the creature. We do have concerns that in the future, requirements might shift to kind of a one-size-fits-all, and with the diversity of species that we all have among us here, that might be less than ideal. We would argue that the requirements be adjusted based on the size and physiology of the species, so that small-bodied animals, particularly invertebrates, small fish, reptiles, amphibians, have a different opportunity for such identification. And in that way, we support the comments of Germany with addressing the physiology and anatomy of the creature for the use of microchips. Thank you.
Thank you, USA. China.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking for China, we commend the Secretariat's efforts for a thorough inventory of marking technologies and relevant resolutions in AC 34, Doc 20, and its annex. We wish to raise a practical concern. Current assessment on live animals marking remains at an early document sorting stage, and a systematic review of implementation gaps by the parties has yet to be completed. Further, we note that live animal microchip marking has not been universally implemented, as many parties are constrained by capacity. We therefore suggest extending the access period to collect full national datasets and identify bottlenecks and any other conditions preventing implementation. Regarding paragraph 9A, given that the proposed full-scale marking work would impose an unmanageable workload on the Secretariat and parties, and without evidence of proven gains to CITES effectiveness in species conservation, China therefore suggests that the guidance should not cover marking methodologies for non-live specimens, parts, and derivatives. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. Now I give the floor to Zimbabwe.
Thank you so much, Chair. We support the establishment of the intersessional working group as proposed, but we wish to add a few statements to the existing mandate in paragraph 28. Chair, speaking from a developing country perspective, most of these parties are struggling to fund acquisition of equipment and similar technologies for monitoring our wildlife populations and habitats as well. So maybe we could add an additional 28C3 on the mandate to possibly consider financial mechanisms as part of the mandate of the working group, financial mechanisms for supporting implementation and compliance. That this could be discussed by the mandate, by the working group as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Маркировка – важный элемент в идентификации и предотвращении нелегальной торговли. Система маркировки переходит на новый уровень, и одним из главных элементов, практически исключающим подмены в торговле, являются генетические исследования. Как правило, это могут быть дорогостоящими, сложными технически в реализации и не всегда иметь экспресс-оценку, методы, особенно когда речь идет о проверке животных таможней. Приоритетными были бы способы и методы, которые имели бы простоту в реализации, могли бы быть использованы органами таможни для проверки. И, конечно, нужно принимать во внимание необходимость наращивания потенциала для стран, у которых есть сложности со способами маркировки. Маркировка была бы актуальна как для живых, так и не для живых образцов, когда такая возможность есть. В документе указаны осетровые рыбы. Мы подчеркиваем, что маркировка для отдельных осетровых рыб, она возможна и проводится, когда речь идет о взрослых особях. Как ранее мы отмечали, маркировка икры осетровых – это также важный элемент контроля, и Российская Федерация неоднократно об этом сообщала на заседаниях комитетов и конференции сторон, делясь своим опытом. Развитие и внедрение инновационных подходов было бы актуально оценить в рассматриваемом вопросе по маркировке животных. В контексте инновационных подходов можно отметить искусственный интеллект, но не как самостоятельный элемент, а как помощник. Искусственный интеллект в данном случае требует правильного обучения и выверенной базы. Было интересно узнать у стран использование таких подходов и их внедрение, если они есть. Поддерживаем сбор информации в контексте, как указано в документе, с возможным дополнением информации об инновационных подходах, которые реализуют страны. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you. Before I go to the next floor, I would like to remind that we want the concise and brief the intervention because we have the limited time and there are several agendas that we have to finish. We do understand there is a concern regarding this, but there will be discussion in depth in the working group. So before I will give the floor, before establishing the intersessional working group, I will give the floor to UAE, Canada, and Japan, and I will close the list for the parties. Thank you. UAE, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UAE thanks the Secretariat for document 20. Reliable marking is fundamental to traceability, legality, and confidence in trade. And it's an area in which we have long and practical experience. Chair, we support the establishment of an electronic intersessional working group, and we would respectfully offer 3 considerations. First, on the question raised in paragraph 9, my delegation would suggest that the guidance remain focused at this stage on the marking of live animals, consistent with the existing scope of Resolution Conf 8.13. Extending it to parts and derivatives raises quite different technical questions and would enlarge the task considerably at a time when the committee must be mindful of its resources. Second, any guidance or revised resolution should be practical so that it accommodates the effective national systems already in place rather than displacing them. Third, and importantly, any new standard should apply prospectively. Specimens already marked under established and reliable systems should not be required to be remarked or re-registered, as that would impose cost and disruption without conservation benefits. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, UAE. Now Canada.
Thank you, Chair. I will be brief. In regard to the questions posed to the parties by the Secretariat, Canada agrees with the elements proposed by the Secretariat, but would suggest additional elements for consideration. Canada has concerns about enlarging the scope of the guidance to include marking methods for non-live specimens, parts, and derivatives due to the significant increase in workload that this would represent, among other concerns. If helpful, Canada could provide written responses to these questions to the Secretariat, which could be useful for the working group in its deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. It will be helpful. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, Japan would like to support China's intervention not to expand the scope of the guidance to non-live specimens. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Japan. Oh, Kenya. So this is the last one. I give the floor to Kenya.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya would also say suggest that the scope is not expanded, just like the existing resolution is specific on implants for marking live animals in trade, and again, the resolution is on animals in trade. So by expanding to cover even what is not, our understanding is that what is in trade is at the time of shipments when the specimens are in trade. And regarding the questions, regarding the question in para 9, yeah, that is about the not expanding to cover non-live specimens. In the event there will be a need, I think that can be considered when we are looking at high-value specimens. If we have to consider marking for purposes of traceability, those specimens that are non-alive, but they have to be of high value, considering the cost of the technology and the practicality of applying the markings. Then lastly, Mr. Chair, there is the areas of consideration as presented in paragraph 7. We consider that as we look at the types of marking, then we have to look at the issue of market acceptability. What method are we using? Is it acceptable to the market? Is the market accepting such method of marking? Is it interfering with the aesthetic of the specimen, or is it interfering with the traceability of the species when it is in the market? Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. Then I give the floor to the, sorry, it is because the time is limited, then I give the floor to only two observer organizations, EASA and BNR Germany. EASA, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm making this intervention on behalf of EASA and ACA. We thank the Secretariat for preparing document 20 and Switzerland for their support towards commencing the work in relation to the review of Resolution Conf 8.13. As a member of the IUCN SSC Conservation Planning Specialist Group, CPSG, which is formerly known as the IUCN SSC Conservation Breeding Specialist Group, CBSG, we contacted them and they resurfaced the review on the application of coded microchips, which is referenced in paragraph 4 of the document. We have shared the document with the Secretariat just this morning. CPSD confirmed that they do not intend to host or update the document and request whether it is possible for the reference to be removed from the resolution, given that it is now outdated and will not be revisited. We support the suggestion of setting up an intersessional working group as proposed in paragraph 28C and suggest that discussion on how to resolve the reference to the review on the application of coded microchips could be considered under point ii. We're keen to continue to provide our expertise to progress this work moving forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, EASA. Now I give the floor to Germany. BNA Germany, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. BNA congratulates you for your appointment and thanks the Secretariat for compiling this clear document on marking in the context of CITES. We recommend that the marking of live specimens of protected species be carried out as a separate work assignment in order to produce a simple and clearly structured document that for transponders takes not only into account ISO standards 11784 and 11785, but also ISO 24631-1. This document specifies the conditions for the assignment and the use of the manufacturer code for a transponder, as well as the associated rights and obligations of the parties involved in assigning the code. BNA therefore supports the establishment of an intersessional working group and recommends the engagement of representatives from the ISO Secretariat, the International Committee for Animal Recording ICAR, as well as the veterinarian and animal keeping organizations due to their experience in marking. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I have requests from the parties, but I want, if there is objections to move forward on that, I will give, if there is a different perspective on that. But if it is already in line that we are going to establish the intersessional working group and more detailed discussion on that as mandate, I will close the list. Indonesia, we are in the line, or you are opposing the you still ask the floor, so I give the floor if you have.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia wishes to express its alignment with the position put forward by the delegation of Japan and China. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now I move forward to establish the intersessional working group.
Papers, hold on.
Okay, the conclusion will be read out by the Secretariat. Secretariat, I give the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The Chair has asked me to read out the conclusions in relation to the other elements, the questions that the Secretariat had posed, rather than the working group that still has to be established. So concerning subparagraph A of the recommendations in paragraph 28, the Chair is recommending that the draft guidance should focus on marking methods for live animals. Secondly, the Secretariat should also consult with pet owners and breeder associations, including ICAR and veterinarian organizations. And concerning the third point, the Secretariat should also consider market acceptability in the development of guidance on marking methods. So these were the summary for the first 3 points. Thanks.
Thank you, Secretariat. Now we go to the establishment of the intersessional working group. Okay, the working group will be chaired by alternate representatives from Central and South America and Caribbean. And Mr. Alwin Tan from alternate representative for Asia. Okay, any members, others will join? Europe represent? Then I invite observer parties. I will read for the observer parties who join with the intersessional working group. Zambia, United States of America, Kenya, Germany, Japan, Mexico, Laos PDR, Russian Federation, UAE, Armenia, Australia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Lithuania, Chile, Malaysia, Indonesia, China, Saudi Arabia, Central South America and Caribbean, the member. I'm sorry, Costa Rica. Namibia, Portugal, and Uganda. Now I invite observer organizations will join to the intersessional working group. EASA, Parrot Breeder South Africa, International Fur Federation, PNR Germany, UNODC, European Pet Organization, Animal Interests, parties Qatar, US Reptile Keeper, Wild Ranging South Africa, and parties South Africa. Thank you. Now I conclude this item agenda.
Next agenda is agenda item 33, Saiga antelopes. I would like to invite alternate from Asia to introduce the document. I'm sorry, so just wanted to revise. Agenda item 33 on Saiga antelopes. Document SC 34, Doc 33 by the Secretariat update the Animal Committee on the conservation status and threat in the Saiga antelopes. The Secretariat has also published a full compilation of response received by the parties as document SC 34 in 7. The Animal Committee is invited to consider the recommendation in paragraph 19 of the document. Now, first, I will give the floor to the members, alternate from the Asia, that will introduce.
Thank you, Chair. This is the first time I take the floor in this plenary. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the government of Switzerland and to the Secretariat for your excellent preparation and organization of this meeting. Furthermore, I would like to warmly congratulate you, Dr. Amir Hamidi, on your election as the chair of the Animals Committee as the first AC chair from Asia. Please be assured that we will continue to do our utmost to support you so that you can fulfill this crucial role with confidence and peace of mind. So regarding the Saiga antelope, before going to the discussion, I would like to deliver the following statement on behalf of the Republic of Kazakhstan, as the representative was unable to attend this meeting. Before reading the statement, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that this statement includes the results of their most recent population survey conducted this year, as referred to in paragraph 15 of document AC34, Doc 33, which indicates a further increase in the Saiga population in Kazakhstan. Okay, from here, the statement from Kazakhstan. Mr. Chair, distinguished representatives of the parties, over the past 2 decades, Kazakhstan has achieved a significant recovery of its Saiga population. While the country's Saiga population stood at approximately 21,000 individuals in 2003, the spring aerial survey conducted in 2026 estimated the population at approximately 4.7 million individuals, excluding the subsequent calving season. This achievement has been made possible through strengthened government protection, anti-poaching measures, scientific monitoring, and international cooperation. At the same time, such rapid population growth presents new management challenges, including increasing pressure on pastures, competition with livestock, growing conflict with farmers, as well as higher costs associated with protection, monitoring, and prevention of illegal trade. In this context, Kazakhstan is establishing a transparent and strictly controlled system for the management of Saiga derivatives. In 2026, provisions regulating the harvesting, collection, storage, registration, and sale of derivatives were introduced into national legislation. Mandatory marking and traceability requirements were established, together with a prohibition on the transportation, storage, and the sale of derivatives without appropriate means of identification. The legislation provides that derivatives obtained through officially authorized population management measures may be sold exclusively through an operator designated by the government and fully controlled by the state. The rules for the making and traceability of Saiga derivatives using means of identification have been approved. A methodology for determining their price and procedures for allocating proceeds from their sale to the financing of conservation measures have also been adopted. At the same time, the rules governing the sale of Saiga derivatives are currently being developed. The existing stocks of horns were obtained through officially authorized population management measures and are kept in centralized, secured storage under the supervision of a specialized state organization, the Republican State Enterprise, Okhotzdoprom. Kazakhstan also continues to improve its broader national legislation concerning the implementation of CITES, taking into account the analysis and the recommendations of the Secretariat, and remains interested in further technical dialogue with the parties and the Animals Committee. Our objective is to ensure the long-term conservation of Saiga, reduce socioeconomic conflicts, and direct any potential revenues preliminarily towards the protection of the species and its habitat. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Asia. Now I give the floor to the other members. European representative, please.
Thank you, Chair. On recommendation A, I would like to take note of the document and thank the Secretariat for preparing a summary of the implementation of the decisions adopted at COP20 on Saiga, and for presenting a trade analysis, noting that international trade in Saiga horn in Kazakhstan in compliance with amended annotation adopted at COP20 has not yet commenced, and therefore updated information on the implementation of Decision 20.196, paragraphs A to C will be presented to AC35. In terms of recommendation B, we thank the parties that responded to the notification and agree with the Secretariat to invite Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova to submit a response in advance of SC81. On recommendation C, we agree to the recommendation to remind Kazakhstan and other Saiga range states to report on the Saiga population status in line with Decision 20.196 for consideration at AC35. We would also like to thank Kazakhstan for the additional information they shared through the Asia representative. We welcome the most recent results from the annual aerial census conducted in spring earlier this year, estimating the population at nearly 4.7 million individuals, representing an almost 18% increase from the 2025 population census. We look forward to a report submitted to AC35 with updated population data. Noting that Kazakhstan is not present, we would still like to ask whether the population monitoring that will be reported to AC35 could also include assessment of the different populations and the population structure and dynamics. Moving to recommendation B, I would just like to make a very minor correction. There are two C's in this document, so there should be a D here. We do have some comments on the information provided in the responses to notification 2026-041 and the trade analysis prepared by the Secretariat, but I do seek some guidance from the Secretariat on recommendation D, and given the limited time available in the plenary, how the AC should be able to have a proper discussion and develop the recommendations to the Standing Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, European representative. Now I invite observer parties. Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Российская Федерация ознакомилась с документами, представленными секретариатом, и информацией о ходе выполнения решений по Сайгаку. Мы хотели бы отметить несколько ключевых аспектов. Прежде всего, мы приветствуем работу и усилия Казахстана по восстановлению популяции сайгака. Представленные на конференции сторон 20 данные о росте численности и сегодня озвученные на комитете — это показатель того, что принимаемые меры действительно работают. Подчеркиваем, что устойчивое восстановление вида возможно только при скоординированной работе всех стран ареала. Мы обращаем внимание на важность строгого выполнения всех принятых решений, в частности, в части представления полной и достоверной информации о запасах рогов, их маркировке и происхождении. Сведения, приведенные в обзоре торговли, свидетельствуют о сохраняющемся высоком уровне оборота продукции с кодами источника преконвенционные и неизвестного происхождения. Мы считаем крайне важным обеспечить безусловное выполнение решений 20.195 и 20.196 в части применения кодов преконвенционный, то есть исключительно к тем запасам, которые были официально задекларированы, и ограничение использования кода неизвестного происхождения в коммерческих целях. Что касается запасов Российской Федерации, то их нет, все конфискаты подлежат уничтожению. Мы выражаем готовность и далее делиться опытом, но подчеркиваем, что эффективность всех решений зависит в том числе от четкого и своевременного представления отчетности всеми сторонами. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you, Russian Federation. USA, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United States supports easing current restrictions on saiga antelope trade by expanding legal channels for captive bred and sustainably sourced specimens, including private commercial breeding operations, while maintaining strong enforcement against illegal or wild-sourced trade. We oppose maintaining overly restrictive quotas or de facto bans on trade. The United States supports maximizing legal, sustainable trade, particularly from those captive bred and ranching operations, because flooding the market with legal supply is the most effective way to undermine illegal poaching networks. Restricting trade only to government-controlled specimens can create unnecessary bottlenecks, raises prices for illegal product, and disadvantages American importers, manufacturers, and consumers while failing to harness the full conservation power of private enterprise and market forces. America's own success with sustainable use and commercial breeding of wildlife demonstrates that opening legal trade channels for captive bred saiga, combined with strict verification, incentivizes investment in breeding programs, reduces pressure on wild populations, and generates economic benefits for both U.S. businesses and the range states. Total or near total prohibition has failed the saiga for decades by sustaining high black market prices. Legal captive bred trade under clear science-based rules is the pro-conservation and pro-trade solution that aligns with American priorities. Boosting legitimate commerce, weakening criminal syndicates, and rejecting ideological restrictions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, USA. I give the floor to China.
Thank you, Chair. China appreciates the efforts made by the Secretariat for compiling both responses to questionnaires and trade information from year 2020 to 2024. China commends the achievements made by the Kazakhstan through strengthened national measures and international cooperation, especially the updates on population size with over 4.7 million individuals, and the approved rules and mechanism to fulfill and implement requirements set out in relevant decisions. China shared the concern of management challenges resultant from rapid growth of population size. In conclusion, China suggests the Animals Committee report all the positive progress to the 81st Standing Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. Now I give the floor to the observer organization. I will limit it on 2 observer organizations, CMS and Traffic. CMS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. CMS would like to thank the parties for providing this information and the CITES Secretariat for preparing the document. Further, we express appreciation of the long-standing and productive cooperation between CMS and CITES Secretariats in support of the implementation of the SAIGA MOU under CMS. In this context, we would like to draw the attention of parties to Decision 19213, Ref COP 20, paragraph A, which urges the range states of the Saiga antelope, as well as consumer and trading countries of Saiga parts and derivatives, to fully implement the measures set out in the medium-term international work program for the Saiga antelope 2025 to 2030 under the SAIGA MOU. We look forward to continuing our close collaboration with the CITES Secretariat and partners to advance the conservation of the species and stand ready to support parties in the implementation of the aforementioned work program within the mandate of CMS. Thank you.
Thank you, CMS. Now I give the floor to Traffic.
Thank you, Chair. This intervention is on behalf of Traffic, IUCN, and WWF. We welcome this document and support the proposed recommendations to the Animals Committee. We would also like to commend Kazakhstan for the considerable progress made in implementing the COP20 annotation, including its strong stockpile control and labeling system for horns obtained since 2023. And the transparent submission of a detailed inventory of horn stockpiles and associated weights. We also note the recently published survey results showing a continued increase in Saiga populations. Regarding the committee's recommendations to the Standing Committee, we welcome the information provided by parties in response to notification 2026-41 and encourage the AC to invite the SC in line with decision 19-214 Rev COP 20 to request additional information from major trading and consumer parties on current stockpile volumes and the measures in place to distinguish newly imported horns from existing stockpiles, where this information has not yet been provided. All this to support transparency. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Traffic. Sorry for bit waiting, but we will move forward. There are 4 agendas still left, and we still have to establish 2 intersessional working groups. So I would like to come back to the members of the European representative, if any recommendation that will be added. Yes, European issue.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. So you would like our comments now on recommendation D? Okay. So firstly, we note the varying levels of implementation among parties, particularly on stockpile registration and volume and labeling and traceability. We consider the stockpile control and labeling system in place for horns in Kazakhstan as robust and thank Kazakhstan for their transparency, having provided a detailed list of horns and weight in their responses to the notification as available in InfDoc 7. However, more information on the current stockpile management and control, as well as labeling and marking systems in place, including the need to develop such systems in consumer countries, is necessary before any trade can take place following the decisions taken at COP20. We wish to remind parties that did not report on the volumes of their stockpiles of Saiga horns to do so before SC81, in line with decision 19.213.b, reminding parties of decision 20.195.c, which directs parties to strictly apply source code pre-convention and only apply it to Saiga antelope specimens removed from the wild prior to the 16th of February 1995, and limit its application only to specimens from stockpiles reported to the Secretariat. We therefore support the Secretariat to follow up on this issue as appropriate and bring it to the attention of the Standing Committee. Relating to the stockpile of horns, we would like to invite the AC to consider whether there would be merit to develop conversion factors for Saiga horns to be able to correctly estimate the number of horns and weight of the stocks in order to be able to verify the data provided. I would like to raise some questions and concerns regarding the reported trade involving Saiga specimens with source code C. We are not aware of any established captive breeding of Saiga for commercial purposes that would qualify for source code C, and the ones that exist are primarily with a focus on species preservation and reintroduction. We would like to note that in a 2017 workshop with its Saiga Conservation Alliance, no range state reported captive breeding at a commercial scale. Noting this was 10 years ago, we were not able to find any more recent references. And in the Saiga CMS Memorandum Working Program from 2025 to 2030, directs parties to update the registry of captive breeding facilities with details on their purpose, the number of Saigas, and their origin, but we have not been able to find such a registry. We therefore request clarification and additional information by parties that have reported export of Saiga specimens with source code C, to clarify the origin of the specimens, and we believe this should be one recommendation by the AC. And finally, we wish to remind parties and welcome any updates on the implementation of decision 19.213C to exchange information and enhance regional cooperation on Saiga conservation efforts, trade controls, and enforcement measures to combat poaching and illegal trade. Thank you, Chair.
Max.
I would like, I'm sorry for some extended time. I would like to ask the interpreter for asking extend 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you for the patience. I will write the conclusions. Concerning agenda item 33, I conclude that Animal Committee notes document SD34, Doc 33, invite Ukraine and Republic of Moldova to submit a response to notification to the parties number 2026/041 90 days in advance of the 81st meeting of Standing Committee, and remain Kazakhstan and other states to submit a report on the implementation of the decision 20.196 for the consideration at the 35th meeting of the Animal Committee. Invite the Secretariat to report the positive progress to the Standing Committee 81 to follow up the parties on A, little I, the detail of their stockpile of pre-convention Saiga antelope specimens before Standing Committee 81 and report to the Standing Committee 81st. Little B, the trade in the captive breeding of Saiga, including their source, and report back to the Animal Committee 35. Asia asks the floor. I give the Asia.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Chair. We want to thank the EU member for raising these concerns. However, due to the limited time for us to follow, we would suggest for this meeting we can note these concerns, but instead of just invite parties to do so many things. I think it's better place to discuss that during the Standing Committee instead of the Animals Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I need views from other members. There's two different perspectives. I would like to invite Africa, Central American, Central South American and Caribbean, North America or Oceania. There are two different views on how to move forward with this item.
Should we also just remind
Yeah, also bear in mind that it's this matter also reported in the Standing Committee. So, Europeans.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We will be quite hesitant to only have our concerns noted at this point and then only for the next discussion to be at the Standing Committee, considering that the Animals Committee is invited to provide recommendations to the Standing Committee based on implementation, based on the report provided, and that some of the concerns that we presented are closely related to the work of the Animals Committee, including the population monitoring report and the trade in captive bred Saiga specimens. So, noting that there's very limited time, may I suggest perhaps a drafting group to prepare the recommendations, as I think there is not really time here in the plenary, but also I think everyone needs to be able to see it in writing. At least I know I do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the understanding. Europe represent and Asia. We will invite Europe represent and Asia and Secretariat to drafting with the mandate that I read out and not enlarge the scope of the mandate. So we only a small group as the mandate.
Sure.
And also finish the drafting by 7 tonight. Is it okay? We can move forward for this? All right, thank you for your understanding. Okay, by finishing the agenda item 33, we finish the agenda today, and I would like great appreciation to the interpreters for the extension of time that we can see tomorrow. Thank you very much.